Baron, give us a twirl.
Yes, please, Baron.
Look at him go.
Yes,
Wow.
Look at you all. Where are we going?
We are going to an event to honor the Baron.
Oh.
And you are not.
Because you have made it very clear that your future lies with the humans, not the vampires.
That's not fair.
Yeah, we are a family.
Right.
We will always be a family.
Thank
and
you.
are no longer part of the family. Capitch?
Because you rejected your vampire family.
I didn't.
Yeah.
The family.
Oh, Colin Robinson, no.
Ah, here he is. Should we saddle up?
Well, why does the monster get to go and not me?
Family.
No, not him as well.
Hello, all. Welcome back to What's On Tonight, a podcast with elaborate, quirky, and unpredictable conversations about TV, movies, and more. I'm Becky.
And I'm Mandy.
Tonight, we are covering What We Do in the Shadows, Season 6, Episode 9, titled Come Out and Play. Please note, this is a spoiler-filled podcast, so if you haven't watched the episode yet and don't want to be spoiled, come back and check us out after you've finished. Mandy, what is this episode about?
The vampires get blamed for a murder at a meeting of all the New York vampires and must find a way back to the safety of Staten Island.
Ooh. First impressions of this episode as a whole. You want to go first?
Well, the first thing, obviously, I'm going to say is that this is very, very clearly an homage to the Warriors movie.
Yes.
From 1979. I think we have very different opinions about that movie. I agree. It is a horrible movie. It has very fond memories for me just because. So when Jackson, my son, was like 12, 13, he started to get into that teenage boy period where, suddenly we went from mom's my best friend to all I care about is sports and, be it playing video games. And so I was trying to kind of find ways to connect with him with things that I always thought he would like. And that movie, so the movie The Warriors is based on an old Greek poem by Xenophon, which was an actual thing that happened. It was about this group of 10,000 Theban warriors who had gone to fight for the Persian king Cyrus, and he got killed while they were there, and they suddenly had to get all the way back to Greece without getting murdered by a bunch of different enemies' territories that they had to go through. So, but in the movie, it's the most ridiculous gangsters in the world. Everybody is it's just like the episode. Everybody's got these crazy costumes. And there's one team of gangsters who are dressed like baseball players. And since Jackson was a big baseball player, I thought he would really like it. And he did. And so he loved this movie, and we watched it over and over again. So I was really excited when I saw that that's what it was going to be based on. I went back and watched the movie again, and you're right, it is terrible. It's pretty rapey.
Oh, God, it's awful. I'm not slamming the spoof. I think the spoof on the Warriors was brilliant. And I think it was a treat to have all of the main cast together for the majority of the episode instead of
that was fun
off into different stories. I think there was a lot of great comedy mixed in with some moments where a lot of the characters get a moment to shine, complete with Giz official Winky Fingers officially being accepted as a part of the family. I give this episode 5 popped Jerry heads out of 5. I watched this, I was like maybe 10 or 11 years old. So it was a sneak for us to go watch this movie or to watch the movie on video. And so we thought we were cool because we were sneaking, me and my brothers, to watch this movie. But watching it as a 48-year-old woman, I was like, in 2024, this is the worst thing. I felt like Colin Robinson last episode watching hours of baseball. I will never get this time back.
It's a terrible movie. It really is. It's kind of like a even worse version of trying to watch John Hughes now, where I used to love like 16 Candles, and I now cannot watch it because there's so many things about it that are just they're offensive, frankly, to me. Just, racial stereotypes, jokes that they make about consent and, things like that. And this very much, I tried to watch The Warriors again because I've probably watched it, I don't know, 4 or 5 times in the last 10 years, but it's usually just kind of on in the background. And because Jackson still watches it occasionally. And I hadn't really dialed into it, but I tried to watch it. I didn't finish all the way this week, but yeah, there's a lot of questionable stuff in that film. In addition to the fact that it's just really bad.
Terrible.
It's just really bad. They'll throw the F slur around a lot.
Yes. And then
very misogynistic.
The one dude talking to the girl about pulling a train, and yet she ends up with him in the end.
Right.
If that's not love, I don't know what is.
Yeah. There are a lot of questionable things. It holds a fond place for me just because Jackson did enjoy it very much when I let him watch it when he was a teenager. And surely because of the baseball thing. And just because back then, he's 12 or 13 years old and it seemed like I'm watching a cussing movie. And now, it's just nostalgia for him too. He knows it's a terrible, terrible movie, but it's just funny to him. So yeah, I enjoyed it for that reason, but I do not debate it as a terrible film.
All right. So getting into the episode, I didn't really do 2 separate things because this was really all mostly one episode. But I do think, if you're all right, before we dive into the meat of the episode with the vampires, I do want to just kind of talk for a quick sec about Gizmo and Miguel, their time at the batting cages. Just go through a few points there, and then we can go into the episode where all the good stuff was.
Sure.
I like that Frankie reprising his role as Miguel. He is hilarious. I think, was it you that recommended I watch this fool on Hulu?
No.
I don't know who told me to watch that, but it's so funny. But just a few things that I liked about this scene. Junior Giz, his little picture of him in his little baseball
that was cute
uniform was adorable. And the dynamic between he and his cousin, very sibling-esque, him ribbing on Guillermo, and he's like, you love it. And Guillermo smiling always through his misery and discomfort around these people is like, no, I don't. Thought it was fitting. The helmet didn't fit his head. And the line where terrible at batting and his cousin says, you're out of practice. And Guillermo says, I don't think I was ever in practice. Miguel's quote about the document crew still following them around and Guillermo explaining that they're following him. And he says, so it's like Sling Blade, but boring. And then the very sweet moment before they hop in the car to go save the rest of the crew, that Miguel reminds Guillermo that he's family, that they love and miss him, and they have his back without question. And then when they get in the car and Guillermo's trying to explain that they aren't, quote, Winky Fingers regular friends, and Miguel's like, dude, I have gay friends. It's no big deal. I love those moments between them.
I only have like 3 or 4 notes for that storyline myself because it did kind of tie back into the main Warriors plot pretty quickly, but I think the theme of this episode was largely what is family. And at the very beginning of the episode, they're getting ready to leave and go to this award ceremony where Baron Athanas is going to be recognized. And they tell, everybody's all dressed up. And one of the notes I have is how much I like everybody's fancy clothes that they're wearing.
The Baron looked amazing.
He did. And I noticed for the first time that his fancy dress outfit is very much like, do you remember the first season at the end when they had the Vampiric Council and there were a bunch of celebrities that were there and the head of the Vampiric Council was Tilda Swinton? I think if you go back and look, Baron Athanas and Tilda Swinton look almost identical.
I'll have to go back and look.
Yeah, I don't know why that stuck out to me, but that was the first thing I noticed when they showed up. But anyway, and they tell Guillermo that he can't go because he's like, he's getting out of the shower. Apparently, he's got his little shower caddy. Because he lives in the shed, so he has to come in to shower. And he's like, where are we going? And they're like, you're not family. You rejected us. You're just with your human people. But we all know that Guillermo, very quickly, you know that as a viewer, but then it's reinforced when he goes to hang out with Miguel that he's very disconnected from his human family. Like in a large way, the vampires are his family and they've rejected him. But he goes and he's hanging out with Miguel and Miguel reminds him, no, you have a family. Like, we love you. And I thought it was funny how bad he was at baseball and his And Miguel saying, you're out of practice. And he says, well, I don't know that I was ever in practice. And Miguel reminds him, yeah, no, you were. When we were kids, you used to play all the time. Like you were a baseball player. Like you used to be more human. You used to be part of this family, and we miss you and we're worried about you. So I thought that was a nice and then of course we'll get towards the end of it about how the vampires changed their tune about family by the end. But I thought that was a really poignant moment for Guillermo to remember that he does come from somewhere and he has people that love him and care about him outside of that house.
Yeah, I loved that.
I hope that's going to come back to play to get him out of that stupid Cannon Capital. I hate those people.
I'm not going to go into it, but based on the previews I saw, I think it's coming to a head, I hope. So back to the beginning, I cracked up at Nandor having to take Polaroids of himself to see what he looks like. Did you notice on the invitation at the bottom, it said details available in the ether?
No.
I love these ether callbacks that we're getting this season.
Yeah, that's funny. I missed that.
What did you think, Nandor, when he's talking about the award, that he's never heard of such a thing, but it sounds really cool.
Yeah, Nandor, bless him. He was adorable this episode. I liked when they were talking about, that Nandor or that Guillermo can't come because he's not part of the vampire family. And immediately Colin Robinson says, yeah, the family. And Nadja shuts that shit down right away. She is not having vampire puns.
The way they continue that through this entire episode is one of my favorite parts of the episode. I wrote that's in my notes. Love this continuation of Nadja being annoyed. But then the monster comes out and Guillermo's, well, why does he get to go? And then he says it too. Family.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's like,
still not having it.
Not him as well. That is the clip we have opening this episode.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That one's funny.
I think it's sweet the Baron is being gushed over, even though we later find it's for nefarious reasons. Did I use that word correctly?
You did.
Look at me. I learned that from Phineas and Ferb.
You learned nefarious from Phineas and Ferb? Can't say that 5
Phineas
times fast.
and Ferb, but no, it was, what's the one with Steve Carell playing the Gru?
The Minions?
The Minions.
Despicable Me.
Yeah.
Maybe used to call that Spickle Me.
Mandy's baby girl is graduating college next week. So just if you were wondering how old we are.
Very proud of her.
Did you notice they may have been doing this the entire time, but I just noticed how they put the Hellhound and the Sire underneath them when they're with the Baron on the TV?
No, I didn't notice that either, but I did love when the Baron was getting ready to leave and he's still got the weird, freaky Guillermo spawns and he's like burping this disgusting frog. Yes. Yeah. I love that the Baron and the Hellhound and the Sire have all stuck together as a little family with the weird Guillermos.
The Sire having to babysit because their other babysitter went to Northwestern, and he's not lying. It really is difficult to find a replacement.
It is, and then you wonder who was their babysitter. I just love to see who it was that they had babysitting the weird little Nandor or Guillermo freaks.
Yeah. She could be a creature of some type.
Maybe she's a vampire who's just trying to, get her secondary education. You never know. You want to have a backup. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to move into the arena when they arrive.
Yeah, they get to the awards.
And I've got a breakdown of first aid groups of vampires that they come by, and a little note about a couple of them.
Yeah, so they get to the thing, and Jerry is going to speak. But as you're looking around, this is where the whole warrior comparison comes in. You start to notice that there are all these very oddly dressed groups of vampires.
We start with the Lower East Side vampire punks. Nandor hasn't seen them since they spit on him in 1983, but it's okay because it's what they did back then.
As an ex-punk kid, that really, really made me laugh.
Did y'all spit on each other?
I couldn't stand that shit. I never got in the pit. I never did any of that stuff. But all of the guys that I hung out with back in the 90s, it was like you were not cool if you weren't in the pit. And if you went to a hardcore punk band and they spit on you, yes, I absolutely knew dudes who thought that was an honor. Not me. But yes, I did know guys who would have told you, like, Gigi Allen spit on me.
I thought it was just because Nandor was mad that he got spit on, so he was trying to
No.
make it look like a cool thing. I
No.
am even more horrified to know that that's real.
No, that's 100% real. Somebody was obviously in the punk scene at some point.
For sure. Then we have the Fly Guys, and then the Hampton Vampires, or as Colin Robinson says, much to Nodge's annoyance, the Winky Fingers Vampires.
It's that one.
And Nandor's like, I hate those dipshits.
It's that one.
And then this is my favorite, the Manhattan All-Girls School Vampires.
Yes, that was my favorite
Colin
too.
Robinson says there's vicious and ruthless killers, both socially and in a murder sense, and how they diss Nadja.
Yeah. Teenage girls are mean.
He's right. They're vicious and ruthless.
Yeah. As vampires, I imagine they would be the worst of the lot.
And then we have the Coney Island Carney Vampires, the Leatherette Vampires.
Did you notice one of the Coney Island was a bearded lady?
No, dude, there was so much to see. That's probably one I'm gonna have to go watch like 6 more times, but I will look for that next time. Then we have the Rockaway Surfers and the JFK TSA Vampires and Nadja.
That actually might be my favorite
service. That was great.
That was like, can you imagine? It's almost like my problem with Twilight was you have immortality and you're telling me what you choose to do with it is repeatedly pretend to go to high school. And it's the same thing here. You're a vampire and you're deliberately working at TSA. Like, I just can't imagine a worse existence.
I feel like the high school thing, no, I could not do that over and over again for the rest of my life. But I think the TSA, you would see some things that would probably make the job for a vampire. I just don't know how they do it given that their son. How do they avoid?
Well, they're only night crew. But also, I will tell you that I have seen some truly assholish behavior on the part of my fellow travelers that I wish that some of these poor TSA agents I've seen were vampires so that they could come back and drain some of these bitchy people.
Well, that's probably a reward that at the end of the day,
they
can find that chick that was on the plane who gave them shit because they had to screen her bag and she is now dinner.
Yeah, I know I have a habit of bringing up former friends of ours or people that we've known and not wanting to really mention names, but I will say one of my former best friends that you know right off the bat who I'm talking about. When she was traveling one time, this is one of the ways that I knew that she and I had grown to be very different people when she told me this story and thought that I was going to laugh about it. She was traveling like a huge full-size bottle of lotion, which everybody and their mother knows you cannot take in your travel on. It can't be more than 3 ounces. And she had like a huge bottle. And the lady had to tell her that she had to dump it. And she actually pulled this bottle probably costs more than you make in a day. So yeah, again, I am not one of those people that bitches about TSA. It's not fun. It's probably my least favorite part of flying is getting through there. But my sympathy is all for those people. I've never had anybody be hateful or rude or anything. They just want to do their job and go home, just like the rest of us. And I imagine that they have to deal with a bunch of shit every day. So yeah, I think maybe it might be a good thing to be a TSA vampire. I'm going to go back. That might just give you like some impetus to find some humans you'd like to take out. And my flights would be less full.
They're doing a service. So yes, as Nadji said, thank you, TSA JFK vampires, for your service. I want to ask you if the Baron's Winky Fingers humility, all of this for me, does that remind you of anyone?
The Baron's Winky No.
Me! Like walking into my own birthday party that I've spent weeks and weeks planning for myself.
Yeah.
With the feints. Oh, all of this for me.
Me? You do have your entire birthday month of October.
I've calmed down a lot.
Yeah, and that's not a good thing. I mean, I miss the old days when you were ready to party from October 1st to October 31st.
Yeah.
Take the whole world on a ride in Octoberland. You need to bring that back this year.
Well, maybe you should bring it back and celebrate me for
the entire month of October.
An advent calendar, but for my birthday.
might be able to do that this year.
A Beck vent calendar.
It's good to know that impulse is still inside you to celebrate
It's
you.
still there, right? My mom would be so happy. Dude, oh my gosh. Laszlo has one of the best lines of the night when everyone's pissed off that Jerry's getting to announce the Baron, and Laszlo's like, he hasn't even sucked him off, let alone been balls deep.
No, that was what Nadja said when they were talking about why the Baron deserved to be celebrated. That he was a wonderful leader, not to mention a fabulous lay.
A reliable
lay, which is so gross because the actor that plays Baron Afanos, I love the character. He's hilarious. Not hot.
He's not what I would picture as one I would lay with, but I did also, you're talking to the girl who dreamt that 4 years ago that I dated Joe Biden.
Right.
So
yeah,
love who you love, man.
You will branch out. That is for sure. You are absolutely a little less snobby than I am.
I want you to talk about the speech in comparison to the beginning of the Warriors movie.
Yeah, it's funny because I said I watched a little bit of it, and that was a lot of that where Jerry gets up and he starts to introduce the Baron, but pretty quickly, like, it becomes just a tirade that he goes on. They switch it up a little bit from the movie because Jerry is the number 2 here, and in the movie The Warriors, it's the leader, Cyrus, who would, in this case, be the Baron, who gets murdered. But in this case, it's Jerry who starts giving this speech that, like I said, kind of pretty much mirrors the speech that Cyrus was giving at the beginning of The Warriors. Like, even the suckers line. And then he starts going down this, quoting Shakespeare and ranting about how the Baron has let everybody down because their mission is to take over
North America. Jerry's a one-track mind.
He is. Here's the thing about Jerry. My note here is said that Jerry reminds me of a mix between Abraham Lincoln, a vulture, and a funeral director. Somehow,
wow,
that character just embodies all 3 of those things. And I don't know if that's on purpose, but if you even look at him, like, he hunches his shoulders over like a vulture. It's just, I hate the character, but I think you're supposed to hate Jerry. I think you're supposed to want to punch Jerry in the face
and pop his head like it's it.
That's what happens and I thought about you. I wanted to call you so bad the minute, I think I did text you and say, oh my God, I cannot wait for you to see this episode when Jerry got his head popped like a zit.
And then before Jerry got his head popped, I loved when the guide was standing over with Laszlo in the group and they're, talking amongst themselves and the guide starts shushing them. And Laszlo, like a petulant child, is like, would you be quiet? I don't know if you saw that.
No, I missed that.
And then Nandor in the back when Jerry's doing his thing is this in his Nandor voice. What is this shit? I loved Jerry referencing The Fault, and he's like, does the fault lie in our stars?
That's the Shakespeare line, yeah.
Oh, I thought it was the movie.
Well, that's where the line, the name of the movie comes from, is from Shakespeare.
A little history buff.
I loved Nadja violently coming out to defend the Baron, and I love how she said, you're a mixer of boiling hot feces, which is just another way, when I thought about it, of saying you're a shit stirrer.
That's great. I wrote that down too, but I didn't piece it together that way.
Yeah, I was writing it down and I was like, oh my God, that's just her saying shit stir. But I'm gonna start using that instead. Much fancier.
When the monster comes up and pops Jerry's head.
I cheered.
She's like, that wasn't my fault.
Okay, yes, that was not my fault.
And then in true comparison to the movie, but this time it's the Hampires calling out the Staten Island crew for being responsible for Jerry's death. But I think Jerry really deserved it.
Oh, for sure. I don't know. I don't know what the whole deal was with Jerry, if there's going to be some kind of callback to, taking over North America again in the last 2 episodes. But I just did not like Jerry's character, and I was happy to see him go.
Yeah. I thought it was hilarious when I call it batting off.
Yeah, when they batted off, I got that written down. That was really cool.
They land in the garage or wherever, and Colin Robinson's running, and he's like, I can't fly, you dick.
Yeah, that was funny. They just left him. Yeah.
He had some of the best quick one-liners. I have really seen him shine. I thought baby Colin Robinson season, but he shows up at these just tiny little moments. Even when he's not the focal point of the episode, and there's a lot more coming through that I want to talk about, but he blows my mind.
Mark Parsha is a great actor, and going back and watching when we were talking about in the last episode when he was teamed back up with Zach Wood, who worked with him in The Office, and I went back and watched his scenes from The Office, and it just reminded me, like, he is such a great character actor, and I find good character actors a lot more interesting than most of your big name main lead people, because they just do, if they're good at what they do, and this cast, there are no conventionally attractive people in this. They're all very attractive and dynamic people, but none of them are the flashy, perfect, hard body, sculpted face type of perfect. They are character actors, and they are all very, very, very good at what they do. And Mark Prosh especially, he is so great at making you 1 minute think, oh my God, this man is Dilbert, and the next minute thinking you just have so much compassion and love for this sweet little guy who just wants people to like him and be his friend. And they've really expanded that character over the last 6 years. He is, and a lot of it has just been subtle in the background stuff. It's not been, that's why I chose, when we got our Christmas sweaters that we're wearing right now, I chose it's beginning to look a lot like Up Dog sweater, because I really have come to love Colin Robinson.
Well, I chose the Nadja have a stupid bloody holiday Christmas shirt because that's how I feel right now.
I know.
I won't go into all that, but it's been a rough one, guys. I love that none of them know how to get home.
I thought that was so funny. I have a note here, like, they've been there for 145 years. How are you going to tell me you don't know how to get home from Manhattan to Staten Island?
How did they get there? Did they Uber and weren't
That's a
paying
good
attention?
point. Honestly, though, as many times as I say that reminds me of me, that honestly may be the most me thing that's happened in there.
Oh, God, you're right.
I think I drove to this office 10 or 15. You literally have to take 3 turns to get from my house. And now, granted, it's a 40-minute drive, but it's 3 turns. And I think that I just stopped having to Google the directions maybe 2 episodes ago. And I've been driving here for 10 years?
Yeah, well, I've been working here for 14, so.
Are you still having to Google the directions when you come here?
No, but there are places I do still have to Google directions to. Even though I think my brain knows how to get there, it just makes me feel better having a Winky Fingers, the guide, with me.
Yeah, if we were in the olden days and we were waiting on me to get us anywhere, we would still be lost I would have immediately, if I were an explorer, been lost in the ocean.
Oh, well, we'd be digging you up with an archaeologist right now.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious when Colin Robinson is like, we need to call Guillermo, and Nandor actually starts calling out for Guillermo. And do you know what? I didn't go back and get it. I made a note too, but I didn't. What Nadja called her screeching?
Echolocation, yes. Which is what bats do. It's they send out a noise.
Oh, okay.
Her version of it was, and Colin's like, I am on the phone. Just call him on a cell phone. You don't have to do that. Before we move past that, because I don't know that I'll ever have a chance to bring it up again. Something else about Colin Robinson's character that I've noticed over the years that I don't know if have you ever read the book Confederacy of Dunces? It's very funny. It's kind of a cult classic. It is about this guy who lived with his mom in New Orleans in the 70s. And he was a guy that thought he was like the smartest, coolest guy on the planet. But really, he is just a big pedantic weirdo idiot that nobody likes, and he wears a hunting cap all the time. And I think that is why they put Colin Robinson in that hunting cap so much whenever, because did you notice, like in the scene when they're in the warehouse when they've flown off, that he's got that hunting cap on? And it reminded me, he actually wears that a lot, and I genuinely believe that they have that because they're making the comparison between him and the guy that was the character from Confederacy of Dunces.
That's funny. I want to give a nod to the one schoolgirl vampire when they're hiding. It says dibs on the one guy with the really gross man bun. And Nandor pats his head like, oh, he's so sad and offended.
They're just mean.
He was adorable trying to soothe the guide, and she's not giving him anything, but she's not
even picking up on it at first.
And then we run into the next set of vampires. We have the ones you were referencing earlier, the Bronx Bomber vampires, and how Nandor thinks it's really odd that a baseball team would be practicing this late. And Laszlo's response is, no, you tit.
You tit.
So great.
He comes up with some of the best cuss words. Yeah, that was the thing about the movie The Warriors, which again, when it came out, it was not very successful. It has become a cult classic. One of the funny things about it is, like I said, it's based on that poem about these warriors trying to get back from Persia to Greece. And they do go through all of these different territories and these different tribes. So the makers of this film, to try to differentiate all of these gangs in New York, they just decide to start giving them the most ridiculous, some of them just have different shirts on. They'll all wear brown shirts. They'll have, the warriors have vests. Like, I think they're supposed to be vaguely Native American, which is one of the many offensive things about this movie when you watch it in 2024. But then it just gets progressively more ridiculous as it goes on. I don't know if they started just running out of money in the budget or what, but they're just like, screw it. Let's just make a bunch of them baseball players. What gang in New York in the 70s is running around dressed like a bunch of 1905 era baseball players? So yeah, they bring that into this episode, and it's very funny.
But the next one is the Meatpacking District vampires, which Colin Robinson says they're as deadly as they are beautiful, and he adds that he wouldn't mind getting his meat pack.
Yeah, I had to look that up because I knew I've heard of the Meatpacking District, but I wasn't sure what they meant by them being deadly and beautiful. It turns out that apparently that's like the most trendy part of New York these days, that it's got like a bunch of high-end stores and trendsetters that hang out there and such. So that's why.
It's where Samantha moved on the Sexy City show, the Meatpacking District.
I think you've been in New York more than I have. I should have known you'd know that.
I do love some New York. I've never actually been to the Meatpacking District, though.
They got a Target?
I don't know, but I'm assuming
I'm guessing
you probably have to go several city blocks.
Probably can't wear my pajamas and Uggs.
Yeah, if I can't wear my pajama pants, I'm not going. The next one is, I love this whole scene, the confusing 80s music reference vampires. I love, I don't know, I don't remember who it was, if it was Colin Robinson or Laszlo, that they're the Fame movie or TV show vampires.
Yeah. Because it gets progressively more ridiculous with the different costumes of the vampires and genres of vampires. And this last one that they hook up with, it's not even clear what they're doing.
It's a dance-off.
It is a dance-off, but is it based on Fame? Is it 80s breakdancers? Is it Fame, the TV show?
It's all of
why
it.
Why is there a moon man in the background? How come there's an old-timey card? Was it a magician or a card player?
Oh, the riverboat gambler.
The riverboat gambler that's just randomly standing over there by itself.
I love this setup, though. We get the dance off, and Nadja, like, calling them, she decides they're twinkle toes, and she's like, I got this. And then she jumps in with her dancing, and she says, have you ever seen feet move at this medium pace? It's like, what dance off? When is the last time you went dance? You owned a club, Nadja.
Yeah, she was definitely giving Becky and Mandy hanging at the Red Iguana in 1999 with those kind of moves.
To her, I say, go girl. Laszlo getting over being tired of it and destroying them all. And Colin Robinson's like, they really weren't that threatening.
Yeah, they were not. But also, did you notice that for the spaceman, all he did was just undo his air? Yeah, he just undid his air hoses so he can't breathe anymore. And he immediately dies.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, now Nadja's pissed because she's like, I was handling this. She's already mad because he told her that the guide, or excuse me, not the guide. She's already mad because he told her that he created the monster to protect her, because after the monster squashed Jerry's head, she's like, what if that freak tried to do that to me? And he's like, no, he would never do that because I explicitly created him to take care of you. And she's insulted by it, which I forgot to mention when we passed that part. But one of my favorite lines from that that scene was where she said that she once ripped a pack of werewolves to shreds like a confetti. And then Laszlo tries to say something to her. She goes, no, a confetti.
Yeah. I like the way they bring up this continuing argument between the two, but I really think, and we'll get to it here in just a second when we go into the next group of vampires, but they really come clean, 100% come clean with each other.
I love that scene.
And it was beautiful. So
it really was. But I understand Nadja's frustration with Laszlo about all this, and then it comes to a head again when he kills all of those very non-threatening dancing vampires, is that she can take care of herself. She doesn't need him to fight those kind of battles for her. She's been a vampire for hundreds of years longer than he has. She's very strong. As a matter of fact, Nadja is the most violent one in the group.
Oh, I think she's
far
the strongest. Maybe Guillermo, because he's got that Van Helsing blood.
Yeah.
But out of that group, I would rather go down a dark alley with Nadja.
Well, Nadja's even more, because Guillermo is going to fight to defend. Nadja will just kill you because she gets frustrated.
Right.
She has the most vicious streak of all of them.
So that takes us to the next group of vampires we come into, which is the graveyard vampires. And this goes into the conversation we were just talking about with Nadja and Laszlo. And then I just wrote here in my notes that we've heard this before, but it was somehow better this time, with him admitting that the reason he made the monster to protect her was because he can't fathom something happening to her and her living without her. And that's why he's so intent on protecting her, and her reminding him that she can take care of herself. And she really just needs him and his massive hog.
Yeah, I loved it. She called it his massive hog. That was very sweet. That scene really genuinely touched me, because I love that. I love how this show does that with the hilarious and then immediately swing back to just being very heartful. That's not a word. You know what I mean?
Heartfelt.
It'll be very touching. Yeah, very heartfelt, very real. And that was a very real moment. Both of us have been married a long time, and those are genuine conversations that we've had with our, maybe not over, killing an entire group of vampires, but
close.
Right. Just reminding them sometimes we don't need you to always be. We talked in another episode about how I can be pretty hard on men, but I think that one of the things that they have to deal with in this world is that they have to feel like that they always have to have the answer, and they always have to be in charge, and they always have to show strength. They can't be vulnerable. And it just was another really sweet moment for her to remind him that she didn't need him to always be her protector. She needed him to be her best friend and her lover and her other half.
Her massive hog.
Her massive hog, yeah.
I think it was hilarious when they're fighting and she is just bashing that guy's head in, and everyone is like, yeah, he's dead. And she's like, I will say when he's dead. Is like, I wrote in my notes, she's obviously working through some things right now.
Just got blood covering her from head to toe. It's just all over her.
Colin says it's like being front row at a Gallagher show. That was a good...
Mom used to love Gallagher. I don't know if your parents ever watched that, but my mom and Bonnie, my aunt, they used to love Gallagher. They went to his shows when he would come to Nashville. We watched his specials. Gallagher was their guy.
I know who he is. I've seen it. I didn't get into it.
Well, his big thing was smashing watermelons. So she absolutely did look like she'd been at a Gallagher show.
I think the moment between, I think it was very one-sided, but I loved the guide's conversation being real with Nandor, and her comment about with him, it's all about the conquest, not the victory. I think that was brilliant. And then I like the callback to where she starts listing all of these people, and she mentions Eddie, Guillermo's old boyfriend.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about him.
I had too. It makes me want to go back and watch those episodes. And then, of course, Nandor completely misses the point, and it's like, could you repeat that? And then that comes back again when they get home, but we'll come back to that. And did you notice when they're in the graveyard and Nadja and Laszlo are kicking butt And Colin Robinson's like, Nadja, there's still some over here.
Because he's totally fine with Nadja. He knows Nadja can take care of this. One of the things I did think was funny about the graveyard scene was when Colin Robinson said, well, if you hang out in a graveyard, you can expect spooky crap like this.
Yeah.
Like, he is not about the goth sensibility at all. I also think that the graveyard vampires were called back to, I think it was the Vampire Lestat. I don't know if you ever read the book yet. I know you were going to.
I listened to it on audio.
So you remember, I think it was it Armand that was living with the vampires that lived in the graveyard, and they were all gross and weird and pale and scrawny and all of that.
Yeah.
I think that that's part of where they took inspiration from that scene from.
But then we lose another poor cameraman in the graveyard.
Yeah, that's 2 or 3 this season, right?
Mm-hmm. So then we move from there to the coffee shop where we meet who we originally think are the barista vampires, but it turns out they're artists and writer vampires who happen to currently be working as baristas. And then there's a graphic designer and a personal essayist vampire.
Which is hilarious because I'm sure that's supposed to be a joke about how every barista is not really a barista. Like they're on their way to something else.
Well, it's like in LA, all the waiters are, just waiting for their big acting break.
Right. I'm not a barista. I am a graphic designer. Yeah, I think that was absolutely what that was supposed to be a joke about that.
I enjoyed Colin Robinson when he had his whipped cream and the guide is disgusting, like, do you want a straw? And he's like, nope.
I like how they are all just kind of chilling in there. Like Nandor or Laszlo's got his a toothpick back in his mouth, like back when he was Jackie Daytona, the normal human vampire. But I love how they're just all just kind of like, we're tired at this point, just kind of hanging.
And Colin Robinson knows all of the laws of sitting at the table and if you have to order a drink or not. And what did he say about the bathrooms?
I can't remember.
I should have written that down.
I know. I do know what you're talking about. And it was funny. And I wish that I had written it down, but because it was something about, and those bathrooms are like, when I went to LA a couple of years ago, I had to wait before my appointment in Century City in the Starbucks. Like I was there at 5:45 and there were some frightening people waiting to get into the bathroom there. And it's like a whole thing, their bathroom, because there are so many people that come and just use the bathroom to hang out or wash themselves or do drugs, that they really do have some strict rules about what you can and can't do in the bathroom.
Oh, that's great. And real quick, if you don't know, my awesome, smart friend Mandy was on an episode of Jeopardy! We are in the presence of greatness.
We don't have to talk about that.
Well, I just think it's cool, so I'm telling everyone. I love Miguel busting in and with Guillermo, and Miguel still doesn't believe they're vampires, and then Nandor grabs him by the head, which actually brings us to the second sweetest moment of the episode when Nandor is like, oh, you're Guillermo's family. And he fist bumps him because he heard that Miguel once locked Guillermo in a closet cabinet for 6 hours.
But yeah, and then he's like, oh, if you're Guillermo's family, you're our family too. So we've gone full circle from the beginning of the episode where they were telling him he's not really family.
Yeah, and the look on Guillermo's face, it was so sweet. I loved that fight scene. I think it is great that each vampire is giving some kind of commentary on their fighting or their drinks or what to do. And then when the one vampire is getting steam in the face and Colin Robinson says a vamppuccino and not just like, I will fucking kill you.
Yeah, I did love how they kept that going through the whole episode. It's very on brand for Nadja to hate puns.
It's so good. And then we're home. And what happens when we get home?
Wait, we missed a big, who was the big cameo in this episode?
Oh, no,
Becky?
we're getting there.
Okay. Is that not yet?
Oh, that's part 3.
Oh, you're right. I'm so sorry. I'm not going to. Okay. I don't want to skip ahead. Sorry.
But I'm not taking that from you. I promise.
No, it's fine. You can talk about it. I just didn't want us to miss it.
I always see that very closing scene at the end.
Yeah.
So then we're home and they're all wondering how the Baron got there. And he just happens to tell them there's this wonderful above ground train that takes you all the way here.
You could have just taken the train, guy.
And then we get this very, very funny moment with the Baron angry at what happened, but he actually knew it was coming, but it was his plan to kill Jerry, but the monster took away the glory. And the guide is, I take my life. I failed you. And Colin Robinson in the background says, let her.
He just wants to see blood.
Right. And then Nandor is like, no, I will not let you give your life. And so he starts offering himself instead. And Colin Robinson in the background, do it.
Yeah, it's like whatever, whoever.
More great, Mark. And the Baron's like, are they an item? And the guide is vehemently denying, no, no, no. And Nandor's like, it's early days, which would be me back in my
that absolutely does
20s.
remind me of young Becky.
Yeah.
I think we moved past a little bit, and you can tell me if it's, but I think this is a good place to stop and talk about, because I don't think we really went into, that was a big plot point. I know you covered that she told Nandor, it's about the hunt, it's always about the chase for you. But the guide was she broke Nandor down. She was like, look, this is not happening. You're a great guy. I've watched your chase for love. You are not really looking for the one. You want the next thing. So it ain't going to be me. So just move on. I want to bring that back because I wanted to say that I think that this does indicate that one of my theories that they're not going, because these are not monogamous people. They don't think like humans. They don't really, even the two married characters are not monogamous with each other. So I think that does point back to whatever the wrap up here is going to be. It's not going to be Nandor and Guillermo riding off into the sunset, or Nandor and the guide, or Nandor and anybody. I think it's just going to be the group realizing that they are a family, and it will center around that theme. Yeah. I think. And this makes me more believing that theory more than ever.
I need him to get a hookup. Just even if it does end up this family thing, I need Nandor to get some loving.
Hey, I agree. I mean, I'd like to see Nandor have, more appreciation, someone being nicer to him in his life, because Nadia and Laszlo do treat him pretty crappy. But he's also, again, think about all the wives he cheated on.
Still.
And some of the husbands.
All right. So the Baron has decided that he is going to get the gangs back together and to show them that he is in fact in charge, and assert his power by having Jerry pop the head of a vampire, one of two vampires who raised
the monster, not Jerry.
Oh, sorry, the monster. Oh, poor Jerry.
R.I.P. Jerry.
Thank you. The monster popping the head of one of two vampires. And then the Baron is like, do we have any more questions? And then we have what might be my favorite cameo in this entire episode. Mandy, would you like to tell us who it was? Because it is because of you that I was turned on to this amazing, incredible, beautiful man.
It would be one of the finest members of my stable. Sorry, Eric. My husband, Eric, not this Eric, Alexander Skarsgård. The only reason that I watched True Blood for as long as I did, because I was not a huge fan of it after the first few episodes, but he played one Eric Northman who was fine as hell and has held up beautifully.
Good
and now
Lord.
Apparently Eric Northman is now hanging out with the New York Vampires, and he's the one that didn't get his head popped, and he tells the Baron, nope, I think I'm good.
All good, man.
I gotta say, wasn't very Eric Northman-like. Eric Northman,
the hair was, well, in his defense, he just saw a dude get his head popped. So it's like Devo. I be quiet.
When he leaves,
but when he leaves, I be talking again. So
the Baron better watch out, because if you let Eric Northman live, he's going to come back and fuck you up. So,
well, if he does, I don't mind.
I do not mind watching. I think he looks better. You're right. The hair's different.
It's dark.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. I think he looks better with the dark hair.
It was. Goodness.
Remember when I don't want to just real quick. Remember, you probably don't remember this. But back when I had my big crush on Alexander Skarsgård, and I was trying to convince you of his beauty, and I worked for the company that worked for the utilities, and I had all of those photos that I remember. I don't know if you do that. I would randomly,
Yes.
for a couple of months, I would send you pictures of him shirtless.
Yes.
But what I did was save them to my computer, and it was just a joke between me and Becky, and I forgot about him. And then I had to call IT one day, and he had to remote into my computer. He found all of my shirtless pictures of Alexander Skarsgård.
He's probably like, good taste. That girl's got some good taste.
He just smoothly moved right. I was like, he was like, okay, can you open up your documents? And I was like, this is the joke between me and my best friend. It's just a little joke we do. And he's like, right. Okay, so those aren't necessary, right? Nope, we can delete those.
That's awesome.
Thank you for letting me keep my job.
And then we get the closing line from the Baron, 2 nights out in a row. Sire's never going to let me hear the end of this.
I missed that. That is hilarious. How did I miss that? That is a great line. Oh, that's so funny. I love them together. I think that's just those little baby Guillermos spitting up. That was so cute.
I loved it. Him just like a papa automatically grabbing the little burp cloth and cleaning him up.
His husband's a gargoyle and his dog is a hellhound and his babies are these weird hybrid frog creatures
That Laszlo, man of science, created.
from Guillermo's DNA.
Well, that is all I have to say on that. Any final thoughts there is, I think Mark, again, brings something extra to every scene he's in this episode. Love the Alexander guest spot. He's hot, and it's always nice to see him. This is by far one of the best episodes of the series, and I, once again, tip my hat to the writers, directors, and this time definitely the costume folks, as well as the actors for just a job well done. And I just can't believe we only have 2 episodes left.
I know. I feel like that they are really having a very good time this season, and I think they're going out on a high note. I have read some of the reviews online. Forget those people at Vulture. They can kiss my ass.
I refuse. I absolutely refuse. Those people, it's not just what we do in the shadows. They just hate I've
they're just
never read a
cynic-
review
they're
on a
cynical.
show. They're just like, this is great. Go do another job.
They're just cynical. I did used to enjoy when we were watching Empire, and Empire just got completely ridiculous, reading their snarky comments about that because those were well deserved, but they just hate joy. I think that their take on the last 2 or 3 seasons of What We Do in the Shadows has been absolutely ridiculous, and I think that these cynical hipster Gen Z reviewers are part of the reason that it didn't do as well in the ratings. But again, I maintain that history is going to look back and it's going to be a sleeper hit. It's going to be a cult classic. And years down the road, people are going to be listening to this podcast and realizing that we were in the vanguard.
Yes. And we're amazing. It's hello, future people. You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome, guys. So are we on to feedback?
We are on to feedback.
So we are going to hear a voicemail from Steve Brown. And as always, I can't wait to hear his thoughts on this episode.
All right, here we go. Episode 9, come out and play. Is it like the Warriors? We're going to see. Oh, the return of the Baron. I love the Baron. Oh, cool. We get to meet Guillermo's cousin and the family are going out. Oh, sounds like Colin Robinson knows the Warriors. He said came out to play, though. Not the title of the episode, which is come out to play. Catholic schoolgirl vampires were kind of hot. I love it. It is a homage to the Warriors. This guy doing these intros of all the different groups that are there. Ooh, Jerry's still serious about wanting to conquer the continent, and now he's blaming the Baron for them not doing it. Ooh, and now Anadia's going to get involved. Got it. Oh, the monster just killed Jerry? Popped his head like a zit. Ew. Oh, it is like the Warriors. Now our group is going to have to try to get home with all these different groups chasing them down. Now I want to find my copy of the Warriors and watch it. I love this Miguel. He's carrying baseball bats, and yeah, this is definitely a homage to the Warriors. The guy just said that Jerry killed the Baron. Did I miss that? I was so focused on the monster killing Jerry that maybe I did. And now Nadia, Laszlo has said he's controlling the monster. The Bronx Bombers. Oh, Laszlo just killed killed all the vampires and the MTV guy. Oh, okay. So see, I didn't rewatch the series. I guess we have met Miguel before, huh? Guillermo just said that he met Nadia. The guy just rejecting Nandor, and he's like not getting it. The graveyard vampire's got one of the cameramen, and Nadia's kicking some butt. Ooh, that round kick vampire is hot. Yeah, there's been some hot vampires in this episode. And a reminder of the Van Helsing blood running through Miguel and Guillermo. And Guillermo just got that vampire with a fucking pencil. Yeah, John Wick reference right there if you got it. And the Baron is okay. Great episode. Oh, can't believe this series is ending. Too bad.
Thank you, Steve. As always, thoroughly enjoy your feedback. We also got some feedback from Laura Willie Swank. Laura is one of the awesome people that I get to record with on Adrenaline Cinema Podcast. This is her first time writing in, and she has some really great thoughts on the episode. Mandy, you want to start?
Just finished up, come out and play, and want to immediately drop some comments before I forget. Number one, Becky and Mandy, you're doing a superb job on the new cast. Thank you, Laura.
Thanks.
Becky, I love your laugh. So do I, Becky. That's for Mandy. And your fun sense of humor. That and your boobs are the reason you and I are friends, Becky. Mandy, I dig all the nerdy references and media trivia you bring to the show. Oh, thanks. Number two, I can't believe we only have one episode to go. Me either. I think we have two, don't we?
Yeah.
Right, Becky?
Yeah.
Okay. It really doesn't feel like this is building up to an ending, but that we're still in the middle of the season. And number three, if Nando and Guillermo aren't a couple by the end of this series, I think my teenage daughter is going to have a conniption fit. She's been shipping them from day one. Me too, Laura. You tell your daughter, me too.
She goes on to say every single episode of this show is just bloody effed up fun. But this one, episode 9, was especially so. It had everything I love about what we do in the shadows in it. Gross, over the top gore. When the monster pops Jerry's head like a pimple, I screamed and laughed. Me too. My what we do in the shadows boyfriend, the Baron, looking so fabulous in his long white cloak. He really did. So many bats. Laszlo making a reference to a bat. Oh, I can't believe we didn't talk about this. Laszlo making a reference to a bat and then turning into a bat every time he did. That was brilliant. Guillermo and family showing their badass Van Helsing vamp killing skills and sweet scenes with Nadja and Laszlo, who are, by the way, one of my all-time favorite TV couples, right next to their 1960s kooky and quirky counterparts, Gomez and Morticia Adams. Oh, that's a good comparison.
It is. I've never thought about that. But yeah, they are kind of the modern Gomez Morticia.
She says that if you're a Gen Xer like me, which we are, you'll immediately realize that this episode and even the title is a riff on that old 70s film, The Warriors, with all the ridiculous vampire gangs and our heroes trying to escape New York as they take on the angry hordes. And she comes back to say she just popped into IMDb and found out that there are actually 2 episodes left. Still, it doesn't feel like enough. I'm not ready to let go of my ridiculous, bumbling, and lovable vampire family. Us either.
No. She also added, oh man, I totally forgot to mention Alexander Skarsgård and 3 exclamation points, I think. I love it when we have actor cameos from other vampire franchises. Now, if they could just get Robert Pattinson for the finale, the show ends on a major win.
That
Becky
would
probably
be
wants that too.
Incredible. Give me Edward Cullen, and he has to glow. He has
Sparkle.
to glow. Whatever. You just sit over there and be quiet.
I don't think you're going to get Robert Pattinson and glitter again in this lifetime.
No, you're probably right. But I do get him in the Batman. Again, starting soon.
He is a hot Batman.
He was sexy.
Yeah, I was skeptical, but he did a great job.
Same, and agreed.
He's Jackson's favorite.
Michael Keaton always will be my favorite, but Robert Pattinson's close. Thank you, Laura. That was so fun. And thank you, Steve, as well. Appreciate you guys and the amazing feedback. Please keep it coming. If you would like to leave us some feedback or just say hi, you can email or send us a voice message as an attachment to What's On Tonight 2 at gmail.com. And that's a number 2. You can visit our Facebook page where there will be a post for the next episode, and you can leave feedback in the comment section or send us a message through Facebook Messenger. We can also be found on Instagram at What's On Tonight Podcast 2. We would greatly appreciate it if you leave a review, comment, and or share on your podcast listening app of choice.
Next, we continue our coverage of What We Do in the Shadows, Season 6, Episode 10, titled The Promotion. I'm scared.
I'm excited based on the previews, so we'll see.
I just don't want Guillermo to go to jail.
I have hope after the previews, so we'll see. Mandy, do you have any podcast recommendations or anything else that you would like to share?
Well, two things. One, I listened to it. I didn't read it. I got it from the great library app, Libby. It took weeks and weeks for me to finally get it because it's very popular. But there is a really good anthology of horror that is specifically written by Indigenous and Native people in North America. It's called Never Whistle at Night. And I loved it. If you are at all interested in horror writing, horror novels or short stories, I really, really highly recommend it. And also, I would like to mention again that a friend of mine has started a nonprofit called Nashville Launchpad, and you can find them at nashvillelaunchpad.com. It is dedicated to creating a safe space that affirms the rights and dignity of LGBTQ plus young adults. They have created a network of temporary, safer, street-free sleeping shelters for unhoused young adults, which are open and affirming to LGBTQ plus individuals and their allies. So they could always, please go check them out. They could use donations, volunteers, any way that you could help. Or, hey, if you know anybody that is in that situation that they are looking for housing, please refer them to this organization. They do great work.
That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Becky, where can listeners hear you?
I can be heard as per usual on a Journal and Cinema podcast where, as I mentioned last episode, we will be starting our coverage of the new season of The Mayfair, which is in January, and on Panels to Pixels podcast, and here on What's On Tonight podcast. As far as recommendations, the cast of us over on Podtastica has resumed their rewatch of The Walking Dead, and Penny and Jim released their coverage of the finale of Agatha All Along via Marvel TV Cast, which is also on Podtastica, and it's incredible. I was in tears a lot, happy tears during that episode. It was just really heartwarming and beautiful. Would like to give a big thank you to Mark and Pirate Corp Entertainment for giving us this platform and everything you do to keep us going. Please visit the Pirate Corp website, which can be found on our Facebook page. And there you can find our podcast as well as other podcasts. Billy and Will's third episode of the Slay Lounge podcast is out. They do a great job covering one of my absolute favorite episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So please give them a listen.
That's going to wrap up our coverage of episode 9 of the final season of What We Do in the Shadows.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. I'm Becky.
And I'm Mandy.
We'll catch you next week when we grab the remote and see what's on tonight.
Bye.